This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
From Estero, Florida, this is the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. Where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're addressing why sexual intimacy is essential and how neglecting this pillar can quietly erode your closeness and connection, even if everything else looks okay on the surface.
And there's a quote from Sue Johnson that addresses this, where she says, "Intimacy is not a luxury. It's a lifeline. It's the way we know we are not alone in the world." And as authors of a book on intimacy, I will say I 100% am on board with that quote. And we're going to be discussing that in today's episode. But first, we start every episode with a hug. And a hug is really an opportunity for us to share your transformation, your intentionality with the rest of the One family. And this hug comes from an email that we received from a longtime listener that starts with, "If it weren't for Tony and Lisa's podcast, their amazing 6 Pillars of Intimacy book, and the One Extraordinary Marriage getaway in Cancun last year, I don't know if we would be married." That's a really big statement. Mm-hmm. She goes on to share that they've been married for 31 years, raised 2 wonderful kids, weathered moves, career changes, the loss of parents, major health crises, and they did it together. But like so many couples, they reached a point where it felt like they were just surviving, not thriving. They went to counseling. It helped some, but the real shift came when she stumbled upon the podcast, picked up the book, and eventually surprised her husband with tickets to our marriage getaway in Cancun in 2024. She goes on to say, "When we arrived, we were surrounded by other couples who were all there for the same purpose, to be intentional about reconnecting and growing as a couple. My husband was blown away by the content, the authenticity of Tony and Elisa, and we found ourselves connecting in ways we hadn't in years. Or let's be honest, in ways we'd never connected before. Why? Because we had tools, we had role models, and we both began to have intentionality about growing in our marriage. Today, they're stronger than ever, participating in marriage ministry at their church, buying 6 Pillars books for newlyweds, and continuing to grow together." She says, "I'm not saying we never have challenges anymore, but now we have the tools to face them. And we're forever grateful to Tony, Elisa, our church, and Jesus Christ."
It's amazing what happens. It's amazing what happens. And we are truly just blessed and honored to have each and every one of you in the One family, because we get to see this happen. And it's truly by the grace of God that it does. And it's not just us. It's you guys. It's you who go out there, who share the podcast, who share the book, who come to a marriage getaway or tell someone to join us on a marriage getaway, to come to an event, to come to an online workshop, whatever it may be. We're just conduits. Elise and I are just conduits of what we've been called to do. And it's you, the One family, who go do the work, who are willing to step in, who are willing to hold hands with your spouse through the good times and the tough times. And we are blessed to be along for the ride. And every hug is a testament to how awesome you are. And I know we get the praise and we get the adulations, but it's you who are doing the work, who are in the trenches, who are saying, we're going to go do this. And we're going to make a difference in our lives, in our marriage, in our families, our communities. So it's truly a blessing. And I have to share this because if you haven't come on a 6 Pillars at Sea marriage getaway, we are going on a cruise again in 26. If you haven't been on one of our events like this, come. join us and join many other couples who are and want to have an extraordinary marriage. You can learn more about our upcoming marriage getaway at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/getaway.
So as Tony said at the top of this episode, we're talking about why sexual intimacy is essential. And I saw this quote that really, it really struck me. It said that in a lot of marriages, people treat sexual intimacy like dessert. And I was struck because it made me think all the way back to January of 2010, maybe January, early February. We had just started the One Extraordinary Marriage podcast, and we recorded episode 3, which was called McDonald's Theory. And in that episode, I had shared that I viewed, at that point in time, sex, because we hadn't expanded the definition to be sexual intimacy, but I viewed sex kind of like French fries, right? I enjoyed them. I like them, but for me, they were not always necessary. Kind of like this idea that sexual intimacy is like dessert. Sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. And this article that I was reading went on to talk about the fact that in reality, sexual intimacy is not dessert. It is like a main course. It's like the oxygen for your marriage. And that hit me like a ton of bricks as I was reading it, right? As I was digging into this, because when I wrote, and oh my gosh, it's crazy. We are coming up on 4 years for six pillars of intimacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I wrote the 6 Pillars of Intimacy, The Secret to an Extraordinary Marriage, and that was released in November of 2021, in chapter 10, I actually defined sexual intimacy as closeness and connection in all areas of your sexual experience. So that includes romance, initiating, foreplay, and sexual intercourse, right? Not just the act itself, but everything that goes into that sexual experience for the two of you. And we always want to emphasize that because it can be so easy for couples to get fixated. It's like talking about the fact that, sexual intimacy is essential. People can be like, well, it's just sex. You're saying that sex is essential. And if we're not having sex, and you'll spin up into this narrative. And I need you to hear what Tony and I are saying. We are not saying that it's only the act of sex. It is having sexual intimacy in your marriage. That is essential. How the two of you engage in being sexual. Because we know, and when we've experienced it ourselves, there are a lot of reasons why a couple might not be having intercourse.
Yeah, and we've done some recent episodes on this, discussing it. I mean, we had a whole episode. We talked about medical conditions and why that may be. And so we have definitely started to begin to touch on this more because we understand. And there are many different things that can happen throughout life, right? In the season of marriage that things can happen. I mean, postpartum, like I just said, medical conditions. You could have some physical injuries that can, like, I'm not saying that they're chronic, but they can hinder you. I've had a shoulder issue, no longer. It's healing. But I had a shoulder issue for a good 9, 10, maybe a year, 9 months, 10 months, a year, that it was hindering. It was tough to be sexually intimate with Elisa because of where my arms were and everything. But it didn't mean I'd stopped romancing her or initiating with her. I mean, those things were still happening. And so defining and expanding that definition has even helped us in our own marriage.
Absolutely, because it gives you more opportunities to keep the pillar, recognizing that it's essential, and expanding that definition gives you more opportunities to engage one another, right? To be in this place of saying, how do we incorporate this and continue to incorporate, no matter the age or stage that we're in, how do we incorporate this essential pillar into our marriage? There was an article recently on Forbes that shared that according to recent wellness trends, couples who view sexual intimacy as central to their overall health and not just their sex life experience more connection, resilience, and joy in their relationship.
Forbes must be reading our book.
I didn't see it cited in the article. I wish, but what I think is important to know as well for all of you that are listening, the one family literally spans from 20 somethings to 80 somethings.
Mm-hmm.
That whole wide spectrum. And I will tell you, and we know that there are folks well into their 70s and beyond who are engaging in meaningful sexual intimacy in their marriage. I actually saw another article that talked about the fact that we really do need to bust this myth, coming back to our Mythbusters episode a few weeks ago, a month ago or so, where it's not just sex is for young people. Mm-hmm. Right? Sexual intimacy is for young people. It's getting into this place and this understanding. And there are studies that indicate that sexual frequency and sexual satisfaction are strong predictors of overall relationship quality. And I think that's important. Like, what does that look like for the two of you? Are you holding it in this place where it does have importance, mm-hmm. that it does have value in the marriage? Or is it something that is disposable? Right. Or, not, I'm thinking back to, the COVID days when it was like essential and non-essential. Right. And so in a lot of marriages, it's like a non-essential. Take it or leave it. And yet when that happens, when it becomes a non-essential, you can get into this place where there's greater disconnect, where you're slipping or, catapulting yourselves into roommate syndrome and dealing with, these feelings of rejection. And I know because I've been a marriage coach now, marriage strategist for 13 plus years,
12, 13 years.
Give or take. And I've sat across from couples who no longer place a value on sexual intimacy, for whom it is just, not necessary. And I've seen that destruction. And yet, when you get into this place of going, okay, if this isn't going to be essential, like, what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. How do we navigate this? How do we even, one of the other articles I saw in preparation for this episode, and it really struck me on how much work still needs to be done around this idea of normalizing the conversations around sexual intimacy, is that this article was saying that most of what we see when it comes to couples engaging in sex, and I mean like love scenes in movies and on TV and things like that, is only the act itself, right? Maybe it's behind blankets and pillows and stuff, but all you see is that. We don't ever see the conversations around sexual. So the importance that it has outside of the act is not what's portrayed to us as a society. And yet getting into this place of saying, what are the needs and desires? How do we talk about this? What are we dealing with in our own marriage? What does foreplay look like, or initiating, or how do we romance one another? All of that is not what we see in media.
And it has an impact on our marriages. And it's really interesting because recently, Elisa and I and myself, individually, I've been speaking to a lot of those of you in the One Family who, have facilitated a 6 Pillars of Intimacy small group study. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are in your church's marriage ministry. You're maybe a mentor. Maybe you've been doing some coaching, things of that nature. And it's very interesting what I've been hearing Elisa has been hearing. And that is, many couples are reluctant to seek out help. And I really do think when we look at our sexual intimacy, I understand it's private. It's between you, your spouse, and God. Mm-hmm. I understand that. And yet, there are a number of you, and we get emails and DMs where your spouse is non-communicative. Like, they will not talk about this at all with nobody, and you are seeking help. And what I would say in these situations is, one, for yourself, to go get help. Yourself. To be able to talk about this, to get it off of your chest, off of your mind, maybe to come back with some tools or some ways that you can then approach your spouse. If it's the two of you and you have a willingness, then step in. Be open, honest, and transparent. Do some of the work that is going to be necessary around this pillar. Too often, I think we go, we don't want to tell anybody about this. And yet, it's one of the areas that so many of you reach out to us that, unfortunate to say, is dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. There are massive cracks. And it's not just from a sexual intercourse place either. And so, be it through your local church, be it here at One Extraordinary Marriage and getting marriage coaching with Elisa, be it through a therapist or a counselor because you've gone through some deep trauma. I don't know how many times to say it or how to say it, but what I want to do is encourage you to pick up a phone, text, reach out, apply, go through what the channels you need. Because if you don't, you're going to be the same place you are today, 6 months from now, 365 days from now, 5 years from now. And I'm not saying that's you who's listening, but you may have a spouse who is reluctant, and maybe you're the one who just needs to take a step yourself and just start to get some of this off of your own chest and start strategizing and understanding maybe even your own dynamics at play to why maybe you are not having the sexual intimacy that you desire. Because there's two in this.
Well, it's a dynamic that involves two people, right? And there can be a lot of reasons why it has gone from, it's slid into that non-essential category or place in your marriage. And it's something that we need to talk about. It's being in this place of, what are the strategies? What are the actions that you can take? And we're going to talk about that after this break. Elisa here. Can we talk about skincare for a minute? As I've gotten older, I realized I don't want my beauty routine getting more complicated. Between work, marriage, and everything else that life throws at us, I don't necessarily have time for a 10-step regimen. That's why I love Go Pure Neck Cream. It's literally one product that does exactly what it promises, makes my neck and chest look amazing. I used to think I needed multiple serums, treatments, and creams to address the aging I was seeing on my neck, but Go Pure simplified everything. One step, morning and night, and my skin looks smoother and more youthful. What really sold me was how effortless it is. Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones, and Go Pure is proof of that. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code MARRIAGE at checkout. Just head to gopure.com, use code MARRIAGE, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show.
DSW, Designer Shoe Warehouse, is the one-stop shop for all your footwear needs. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between, for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW has what you need, but more importantly, they have what you didn't even know you wanted. You never know what you'll find at DSW. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
We're back, and we're discussing what happens when sexual intimacy is treated as optional or non-essential, and what it looks like to shift that mindset and recognize that this is an essential component. There is a reason. If you look at the 6 pillars of intimacy, if you look at how they're structured in the book, the very first one is emotional, the very last one is sexual. I put them in that order for a reason. The in-between ones are physical, financial, spiritual, and recreational. But the 2 on the ends, hold up the other 4. They create that structure that the other 4 operate in. And you can't have emotional and sexual and have either one of them be like all, loosey-goosey, floppy all around, and look at your marriage and say, you know what, we're operating strong all across the board. I've sat across from hundreds of couples. I'm telling you, I've seen it. Right? What happens? And so, you start getting into this place. First and foremost, what would it look like for the two of you to reframe sexual intimacy as a core need in your marriage, not a reward, not a prize on the other side, but this place where it is something that physically, emotionally matters to both of us.
And it's a core need through all seasons. And so we can sit here and we can stand here, because that's what we do when we're podcasting. We're standing.
We're standing.
That there are seasons where it is challenging. We've been in one. It's called perimenopause. It's called getting older. And so we do not sit here and say, we're great, you're horrible. No.
Oh, heck no.
We sit here going, how are we going to keep our sexual intimacy as a core need in our own marriage through different stages and seasons of our own life? And as many of you know, we've been married 29 years. We have a 29 or 22-year-old. We have a 19-year-old. We have gone through seasons. In one now. I said it recently. We thought we were going to be empty nesters. Both of our young adult children live here in the home with us. Elisa's been going through perimenopause, and there have been ups and downs and fluctuations that she has been dealing with. There are things that I have been dealing with as a 52-year-old male. And so we still have to reframe it, because there are times, and it's easy for us to get a little lackluster too, and get a little like loosey-goosey, as Elisa was saying, in this area. I mean, just this week, we were away, and just trying to be sexually intimate was a challenge multiple times. And is it frustrating in the moment? Absolutely.
Oh, heck yeah.
It really is frustrating. To be somewhere, not at home, we don't have anyone around. We could walk around the place naked if we so choose, which I think we may have done a little bit. But to be sexually intimate, we had some challenges. And yet we look at this and we go, it's still a core need. And I think the big thing is having those discussions, so that way Elisa and I can go, hey, it's not you, it's not me. I know we're going through some changes, or things are going on, or something happened there, and yet we're still on the same team with this thing.
Yeah, it's recognizing that importance, because like Tony said, here we are, we've got this fabulous suite, we're staying at this hotel, and the first day, I'm like, sweet, day one, we're totally going to be, this is what we're going after. And we'd had this really big lunch, which I didn't think was that big, but it didn't
big when we ate it.
It didn't sit well. And so we're trying, and I'm like also trying not to be nauseous at the same time. And I did not do a good job, because I finally just got to a point where I'm like, I can't. And that stinks. We're in a hotel. Like, I love vacation sex. It's a good thing, right? And now it's like day one, and I'm like, oh, there goes day one, right? And you sit in that spot you can be in that spot of condemnation. You can be in that spot of, wow, that probably feels like I'm rejecting Tony, and and all of this thing. And so it's not just a matter of reframing it as this core need, but it's also like, what does that dialogue look like, right? Like I said a few minutes ago, Hollywood, most romance writers are not introducing us to all of the other conversation.
It's hot, it's passionate, it gets done, we move on.
Right. There's no conversation about like what worked, what didn't, like what my needs are right now, what my body's doing, perimenopause, postpartum, family pressures. Like, you don't see that part. They just are sexually intimate. They have sex. And yet, getting into this place where you as an extraordinary couple can start to have these conversations, can practice that, like that helps you to shift it from being this like non-essential optional thing to going, okay, well, if I understand what a fulfilling sex life looks like to you, if I understand what makes you feel fulfilled, then I can actually be a participant in making that happen. But if we're not having those conversations, if there's no dialogue between us and we're just trying to, duplicate whatever the latest Hollywood blockbuster is, or, the favorite drama that you watch, but we're not doing all of the behind the scenes work, then we're both going to feel really unfulfilled in this. And it makes it easier to slip into that non-essential, like, because we're not talking, but we're just doing what they're doing. They're not talking about anything. But the beauty in really understanding and engaging in your emotional intimacy is that it heightens your sexual intimacy. It makes you feel close and connected. And I will tell you, every article, every study, everything, when that emotional connection is there, the relational satisfaction, the sexual satisfaction, the relational satisfaction goes up in virtually every study I think I've read. Probably there's one out there, and so I won't say all, but virtually every is what I'm going to do there.
And that's where I'm saying, where we hear of couples where one is ready to go and one isn't. And it's really, truthfully, there's a block. There is a an emotional block. Yes. Does it manifest itself out in like they don't want to have sex with you? Mm-hmm. That they're withholding from you? And this can go either way. Men can do it, women can do it. Like husbands do this, wives do this. And yet, from what we have seen time and time and time again, if you are not willing to be emotionally intimate with your spouse, the other 5 pillars are going to fall down. And specifically, we're talking about sexual intimacy. And so getting that third party in there to help start moving the blockage is what you need to start working on. It's right.
Yeah. I mean, by third party, he's talking like a coach.
Yes.
Like counselor, therapist, that type of thing.
You have somebody there who's working with you, going through those steps. You're being committed to the process of working through those things. And again, I'm hearing it time and time from other couples who've like had to sit down and do this on their own work. Mm-hmm. They've gone to a counselor, gone to a therapist. And as much as I used to believe like, hey, some of us can work through these things. But there is a segment to that. We need those people in our lives. Mm-hmm. I've had them in mine. Elisa's had it in hers. We've had them in our lives together because we have hit blocks in our own lives, in our own marriage where we are stuck. Mm-hmm. And we got to get this stuff out there. Because if not, I just think of it as plumbing. There's a block in your sewage pipe. Guess where it's all going to be ending up? Mm-hmm. Right here in your home, poopy smelling, and all the other good stuff coming on out.
Yeah, it's being able to clear those blocks and understand that clearing that out of the way is going to help you get closer. Avoiding the blocks, avoiding those things that are barriers do nothing more than just create more barriers. Mm-hmm. Right? And with that too, where's the intentionality when it comes to your sexual intimacy? And I'm going to say it. We've been saying it from early days of the One Extraordinary Marriage show. Scheduling sex takes that intentionality to a next level, right? It's putting your priorities on your calendar and saying, this is so important that we are going to actually be in a place where we're going to have, maybe it's days that you're scheduling, maybe it's, every other day, whatever your rhythm is. There's no right or wrong way. It's just saying this is our rhythm so that we know that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because I will tell you it's so crazy when Tony talks about the ages of our kids. Like we started the intimacy lifestyle, you guys, when they were 3 and 6. He shared earlier in this episode, they're about to be 20 and 23. You can do the math. That's a long time of being, I would say, relatively consistent about our sexual intimacy. Mm-hmm. Years of having it on the calendar, doing this kind of thing. Have we been perfect? Please hear me. No. But I will tell you, if we had not been intentional in getting our sexual intimacy on the calendar in the early days of saying this is important, we would be a statistic in terms of not having sex on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And then finally, we've talked about a few of them in today's episode, but use the tools that you have at hand, right? Don't try and just, push through on your own. Use the tools, right? Consider something like the Foreplay to Passion program that is all focused on sexual intimacy, right? Explore that with one another so that you get beyond this thinking that sexual intimacy is just intercourse, mm-hmm. right? What does it look like to be taking action on the front end of that so that by the time we get to intercourse, there's been all of this buildup and anticipation and excitement, and it comes out in the passion.
Yeah. And that program, you can get it at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/passion. You can learn all about it, but it has 7 videos, 11 guides, 4 bonus guides. We pack this to give you many, many ideas on how you can bring foreplay, like even like the initiating part, that whole foreplay part, and bringing that into the passionate part, the sexual intercourse. Because too often it's all looks like, again, we think that it's just like, boom, we're done, we're ready to go. But there's so much work. There's so much time that is needed in building up that passion. And that's where that foreplay is, where that emotional intimacy is. And so we created this whole program for you. Go check it out. I'll also have it here in the episode notes for you.
And finally, if the issues are going deeper and you find that you keep running up against this battle where sexual intimacy feels more optional or non-essential, Tony mentioned it earlier in the episode. Consider getting professional help, right? Put yourself in a place where you're willing to be vulnerable, to go deeper and to figure out the why, so that you can figure out the how to move beyond that, right? It doesn't just happen. Sometimes you actually need to do a little more heavy lifting to move into a place where you're getting the extraordinary that you want.
Yeah. It's a lot. But this is, and Elise and I believe it, it's something that we have talked about from the beginning. It was a 60-day sex challenge. It started what is now One Extraordinary Marriage. And it's interesting, when we talk about this topic of sexual intimacy, it is one of the highest downloads. It's the highest engagement. And you know why? Because we're going to speak honestly, truthfully, and openly with you. We are going to be transparent about it. Because too often, I think we have been led to believe that it's all great, everybody's having great sex except for us. And yet there are challenges each and every one of us face in this area, some way, shape, or form, and something's happening. At the end of the day, what makes us special as a married couple is that we get this, and we have the opportunity to be close and connected with our spouse in a sexual way. That's different than any other relationship we have. And so for us, we will continue to speak about it. We'll continue to discuss it so you can strengthen this pillar and have the extraordinary marriage you desire. You guys have yourselves a fantastic week. We'd love to hear from you. Send your hugs in. Hugs at oneextraordinarymarriage.com. 858-876-5663. You can text it there as well. You guys enjoy. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.